this means I can still be the man if the dam breaks the window.
Are we live?
Yo, wing sauces, like they mixed the lemon pepper and the garlic parmesan, but they took the parmesan out, and it's just garlic lemon pepper. That shit is fire, bro.
That sounds great, is what it sounds like.
Bro, that's hard, man. I was in there like I almost wanted to go back and thank them low key. Like I went home with the takeout. I was eating that. I was like, yo, keep this. Whatever this is, yes, for sure.
All right, bro. If we get right into the show, then I don't think there's any other way to start than by following ritual, which is for us to thank absolutely everybody for joining into the All the Way Live podcast, bro. Whether it's one person, 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, it don't matter to us. We appreciate each and every one of y'all for listening. And yo, fam, I've been like, my mom's wants to talk about this show with me. Like, fam, we're producing content out here.
Yeah, if the elders mess with it, I think that's a good sign. I think that's a good sign. You know what I mean? That's longevity right there.
Yeah, definitely. And how we breaking up some of this longevity and how we curated it, as we like to say, carefully curated content for your cranial. Oh, so people. It's a play.
You can tell he used to rap. You know what I mean? You can tell.
Honestly, I'm just waiting for an opportunity for this podcast to let me do that.
Yo, the All the Way Live, the basement segment is coming for sure.
100%. It's just us freestyling in a literal basement.
Go. We halfway there.
Yo, man, how this content is broken up is by breaking this stuff up into 3 segments. We got Stumble Upon. Now, Stumble Upon, these are some things, thoughts, and interesting facts that we have found throughout the week that we have stumbled upon. We bring that to the people. Then we move into current news. Now, current news, we take the absolute hottest news content, bring that down, and break that down for the people on a weekly basis. Oh.
Where else? Who else? Come on, man. What else do they get, Zoe? Keep telling them we ain't done.
Reach deep into the bag. And today, that current news is, we get into that billionaire talk, fam. LVMH, Jay-Z. Ciroc, not Ciroc. Hennessy.
Everything but Ciroc. Everything but Ciroc.
We're gonna get into that. That's big business. You know, we enjoy it. We enjoy some good big business talk over here, especially when it is in celebration of Black excellence. And then from there, we move into recommended and review. Now, here is our favorite segment of the entire podcast. Can you tell people why it's our favorite part of this whole podcast?
Because Snowfall is back, goddammit. And also,
yo, gunshots.
Yo, for real, but you ain't let me share sound though. But man, that's important to me. I don't know about y'all, but that's important to me, man. Snowfall is back. And also we get to hear from the people, man. That's the people choice. And, you know, interacting with the people is what we all about. We all about building community. Community died. Live Nation. What's good?
Speaking of people, as you can see with this format, we have a guest in today's show. Now, this young brother is one of the flyest artistic eyes and thought makers, if that's a term.
Oh yeah, I'll take that. That's neonized. I like that.
Thought makers, you know. And so into that, you know, we're gonna be bringing him onto the show just to be able to enjoy some of his content today, and then get into some of his art, get into what's some of his inspirations, and just have, you know, young real nigga talk.
In the building.
Yes, sir. And without further ado, we bring to you the All the Way Live podcast, man.
What's good, man? I appreciate that. I appreciate you bringing us in, welcoming us in like you do. You know what I mean? Chicago is in the building. Joburg is in the building. This side of the building is in Chicago. Y'all know what we talking about. This podcast is filmed on stolen land, man. And I'm appreciative of this space that I come from. I'm appreciative of the Native American people, the Potawatomi people, the Council of the Three Fires, the people that were removed from this land violently. The violence that was done to them is inseparable from the state we find this city in, the state we find this country in, the state we find ourselves in, man. So lifting up, you know, indigenous people the world over, love between Black and brown people the world over, intro over. Let's get into the show, man. Let's get into them.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
like that. That's fly shit.
Yeah, you think,
Yeah,
right?
that's fly shit.
You got
It's
that.
almost like it's almost like itagaze.
Explain that.
So,
Explain.
like-
Explain what that means.
Back home, whenever like you'd meet a formal group of people, especially elder people, they'd ask you like, what are your surnames, itagaze, Zaka, your clan names in which like you've come from, and like what you just did right now is what we call is itagaze. Acknowledgement of your history.
It was rhythmic.
Yeah,
He almost freestyled it.
and like that's
Hey,
how
bro.
that's how even language transformed. That's how English became fly.
That's real.
Hey man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's important, man. Yes. And so even on this side, so we call that a land acknowledgement. Typically we do it on this side to just acknowledge, that this is stolen land. The United States was stolen from the indigenous people. And we just, it is important to acknowledge the energies that inhabit your space, the people and the ancestry of your space and that history. So I'm glad that that's like recognizable even, in energy, if not in name, that's dope.
Black people's all over the world.
Big facts. Big facts. Big facts. Yo, I'm gonna need y'all to turn that mic up though, if you can. If you're gonna be speaking wisdom like that, I'm gonna need y'all to turn that mic up. We back. Look, my homies, my co-host, that side, mad ready. Let's get into it, man. What's good? So we're gonna run right into Stumble Upon, G. First coming up with Stumble Upon, what we got is really, so I was checking this out, right? What I had stumbled upon was, I was checking out like videos on YouTube, and I came across them. I recommended this video of Charlemagne the God talking to, and do we have homie's name? I think y'all
I was
knew
gonna
it, right?
say, let me
Carl.
let me get his name so we can acknowledge the brother.
All right, my brother's gonna come through with his last name in just a moment, but it's a brother that
Dr.
was
Carl
just-
Hart.
Dr. Carl Hart just released a book. And if we could get the book name too, that would be lit. But the book is essentially about drugs. And that's a topic that we
Drug
love.
Use for Grown-Ups by Dr. Carl Hart.
Boom. Yeah. Drug use for grown-ups, man. So that is what I stumbled across. And essentially in the video, what I understood from Dr. Hart was he was explaining that his book was about being as realistic as possible about the reality that as a parent or as anybody that cares for anyone, people are going to use drugs regardless of, what you the any kind of campaign you put in place to try to tell them not to. And so how can we be realistic about acknowledging that people do use drugs because they want to feel good, and what are the ways to go about that safely, right? So what I stumbled across was Charlemagne getting a little spicy with dude, kind of just being like for advocating drugs, right? And while I don't necessarily think that's what he was doing, I think that conversation is very intersectional. So I want to see what y'all think about that.
All right, boom, right? So it might even be better to look at this conversation in a greater context than just this conversation, which is that what is our relationship with drugs in general? Like, for instance, I realized I was at this, for lack of better terms, a men's gathering. It was a tea garden men talk. There were a lot of letters that they used to be able to describe it. However, it was in a lovely garden.
Like how that ledge just appeared out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like you brought up the content and then the ledge appeared and then you started to walk it, boy.
I run post-production. Nothing. I am the quality control. I have quality control.
All good. The men's gathering with drugs.
Nah, man, I don't want to take away from how fly it was because.
Did you just say the 80s? The 80s?
Oh man.
Yo, look. I don't want none of this immaturity to take away from how fly of an event it actually was, right? So it's this these family friends have this lovely big garden, and then they just invited a group of young black men to come together to form fraternity,
Constituents
of sorts, right? Which is fly and it's cool. In that, but I was realizing for instance, in the amount of alcohol that everybody was drinking, right? So I was like, if somebody would have pulled out a joint, for instance, myself, I pull out a small joint and I smoke it here, right? That would have been a bigger offense than how inebriated everybody else was getting, despite the fact that I would be I'd have less of a risk of putting people in danger, et cetera, right? So it's just like, what is our relationship with drugs on a basic level?
So
I think our relationship with drugs is I think that's a nurture thing, right? It depends on what have you been told about drugs and what have been your experiences with drugs, right? Some people from the time they're small have no choice in how they interact with drugs because they have parents or people that are close to them that are in their house that are on drugs. So you develop a very practical knowledge of what drugs do. You know what I mean? You might not understand what it is and how they take it, but you know how it make them feel, you know how it makes them act, and you know how it's different than their baseline, right? So other people are introduced to drugs later, right? Through school or some program that's telling them, don't do this, right? And sometimes that can be scary or sometimes that can be enticing, right? So I think our relationship to drugs largely depends on how we're introduced to them.
What was your introduction to drugs? If it's not that type of podcast. DJ Vlad.
I was at a garden party with letters.
And men.
That's how I got introduced.
We gotta get into that.
Those damn garden parties, dude.
That's how they get you. Look.
The gateway garden parties.
That's for sure the name of the episode.
That's the first episode of Blue Dogs, bro.
But Dr. Carl Hart, right? Responsible drug usage is it possible in today's day and age? Would you say?
Look, my thing is like any isolated substance is a drug. So even sugar, right? Sugar cane isn't necessarily as bad for you as a teaspoon of sugar. My thing is, if you isolate a substance, you're creating like some kind of you're trying to work at a particular angle to get the most heightened or most potent form of it. And that can always be misguided, bro. It's synthetic. I think like there's no kind of right way of being like, oh, let me engage with possible addiction, right? Because we cannot gauge how tolerance works. Every person has like a different tolerance level.
Yeah.
We don't respond to the same way. You could do like fucking crack 90 times and still like go home and like work a job. I can do crack once and then fucking my life is over. So you can't gauge and spec what tolerance is, number one. Number two,
subjective.
It's such a dangerous thing to play with, like misguidedness. Like, and I think that's where the conversation of like what is psychedelic versus like a substance comes in. But like Miles says, I think an exposure of like your surroundings. Like if you're in Jamaica, weed is like weed. If you're in South Africa, weed is weed. You know, if you're in like America
or in Singapore,
like chop a hand off.
You're getting hung in Singapore for weed.
For gum, bro. You're getting lashes. So like I said, like it's just what's around you. Some people grow up eating shrooms in the farms and think it's okay, and then they come to the city and now it's like, ooh, you know, what the fuck's up with you? But exposure to particular things changes the nature and how you actually perceive it in a different stage in your life.
Yeah.
Man, I think that's real. I think that's very real. I think the other thing with that too, I think how that also connects to the argument is that, so a lot of people would say that are on the side of drugs and legalization, right? As they've done even in some places in America, right? I think in Washington, and I've made this comment like 3 times on this podcast without knowing the state. I think I've said a different state every time. But
you
they
said New Mexico last
drugs.
week, and
I'm sure I did, right?
Take
and like
that
2
and
weeks
that's
ago,
not
Nevada.
Right.
Yeah, I know. But one of those states doesn't legalize drugs, and I think the reasoning behind that is you start to be able to collect more data, and there's a more free ability to have serious scholarship on drugs and the way they affect people if you legalize them. If you don't just say nobody should have these are illicit substances and leave it at that, right? So there's also the combination of treating drugs like a addiction, right? And I think addiction is a big aspect where we can start to separate drugs and substances, right? You know what I mean? Like things that are addictive, things that people become dependent on. Although people do get dependent on sugar, so it is a complicated conversation.
And coffee and cigarettes
and nicotine for sure, and caffeine are definitely drugs, right? Your neurological response to them, I think, we can safely classify those as drugs. But yeah, when you get to things like sugar, it gets complex real quick. You know what I
It
mean?
makes me wonder, particularly what things should be laws that stop us from making our own decisions, in the sense of the law. Like it's against the law to be able to consume cocaine, but I can point to many examples of people that have functioning cocaine habits.
You know what it is, bro? I think human beings, we need to change our calendar, bro. I've been saying this. It's
Explain.
So I think if you look at like yourself and like your history, right? You're the furthest of your lineage of your particular bloodline to ever exist. And if you can go back and source back, like, yo, this is how my great-great-grandmother lived, this is how my great-grandfather lived, right? You can look at like the mistakes. So imagine vividly like the type of mistakes or the kind of successes they've had and things like that. There's information to source from. But now we're only looking at our society as like 2,000 years, like 2001. Like human beings have been around, like have been carbon dated for like 120,000 years old, right? In a planet that's like 4.9 billion years old, right? So it's just like the history in which we're able to adapt and tap into like and imagine to be like what is right and what is not right or wrong, but what is misguidedness and what is like a particular way for sustainability changes completely.
Are you saying
the flyest way we've ever lived, bro? Like Shafir, we've got like the internet, but people have like this produces so much waste and there's so much going on and going forth and a lot of harm to create like this whole thing. And I think the biggest thing about like drugs is the DEA, like this whole thing. It's a waste of money trying to find drugs because people get them anyway.
And there's a bunch of documentaries about that now, which is the involvement of the DEA in the whole drug trade, which is exactly the whole premise of Snowfall, actually. And this has been one elaborate ad for Snowfall. the real reason we're here today.
Yeah, for sure.
This is all one ad.
Well, if I can quote the prophet Benny the Butcher, everything relate back to drug dealing, right?
Oh.
So I don't think you have to look too deep into the structure of any country, the structure of any where there's a lot of money, there's usually drugs.
That's because there's always lies.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think the larger conversation is, I think it relates to Zway, what you said with personal choice. I think it relates to, do people get safer if we know more about drugs and if what is available in terms of drugs is the pure version of that substance, then letting the streets control that market. And how do you raise your kids in a world? What do you tell your kids if you're trying to raise kids that are not going to do drugs or not do drugs until it's appropriate for them to do drugs, right? Is the approach to be as honest as possible about how you feel about drugs and to what drugs might do to you? Or is it better to just hard line say, no, don't even talk, think, look at that until you're of a certain age?
There's a reality of when a child's brain is developing from a certain age where taking in those types of substances is undoubtedly can alter completely how the brain proceeds to develop from a child. In some instances, it can stunt it. And that the same thing happens with alcohol and with cannabis and with all of that, right? So I think the cutoff age, really, that 18 number, 18 to 21, let's say, put it in that margin. The brain is still very fragile. So if you are to accept the reality of being able to be responsible with drugs, you also need to accept the reality of when it can be detrimental, especially in a upcoming, like in a growing child. All of us know examples of people that have taken drugs, fallen off the edge at too young an age and have not been able to make it back from there. And then some people that pop drugs all the time, and yet, are hosting podcasts now.
Shout out to them wherever they may be.
Shout out to them, Phil. But that also being said, you need to take into consideration the fact of Dr. Carl Hart, the same doctor that was speaking with Charlemagne. He had an episode on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were busy breaking down the rehabilitation methods in, say, Portugal and some other places that had worked, right? And so taking those into consideration too, you need to be honest about maybe the way we villainize drugs and the way we view drug addicts maybe is completely twisted off. And there is potentially a space where people can utilize drugs from on a daily basis and still be productive society members and have a habit but not an addiction.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think it's interesting that society tends to be able to do that. I think if you look at in America's case, right, the opioid crisis is being treated much differently than the crack epidemic, right? The war on crime and the criminalization of drug users, depending on who they are, I think is an important thing to look at, and how the rules got this way and how we did decide to treat drug abuse and addiction like a crime rather than a mental health challenge. So
Yeah,
I think there's a
that's
lot
an
of ground to
episode
cover
on
with
its
that
own.
conversation. Yeah,
That's an
for
episode
sure,
on
for
its
sure.
on
So
its
I
own.
appreciate y'all.
Yeah, speaking of drugs and guns in jail, Bobby Shmurda's home.
Don't put that on my dude. Don't put that on my guy.
I'm gonna cut that out. I'm just gonna say
speaking of loyalty, speaking of loyalty, speaking of stand-up dudes, speaking of people that should receive more attention in the spotlight, Bobby Shmurda is home. Bobby
There you
Shmurda is
go.
back with his people. Bobby Shmurda is no longer a captive of the institutions that are meant to lock up our brothers, man. You know, so one time for Bobby Shmurda. Hold on, am I still sharing sound? Can I?
Perfect.
We glad Bobby Shmurda is home, man. You
Yeah,
know?
Miles, I got a question for you, bro. I got a question
up?
for you, because the concept of mass incarceration is one that's very unique to the Black American community, right? The concept of somebody coming home and having coming home parties. You must understand, as I'm sure you do already, as the well-traveled man that you are, is that that's a very unique American phenomenon and celebration, right? So from the outside, when we hear people say free so and so, like that undoubtedly is something that came from hip hop culture, came from the US, right? And people have adopted ever since, but it still stems from there, which shows a very high prison culture popular in Black American communities. So
Wouldn't you say that's like a struggle thing more than a hip hop thing?
it could be, but what I was gonna like get Miles to just like break open is what that actually means
Oh, in terms of like ceremonies,
in terms of ceremonies
Okay,
and what like just
just what the whole thing means.
yeah.
For them as a people.
I don't want us to assume that everybody understands what a coming home party is and what it means for somebody to come home, especially when that's mass incarceration is not a reality in our community and in many other people's communities.
Yeah, but I do want to just take that little gem right there that just got dropped. Is that I think it is a struggle thing, right? I think before Africa even saw white people, right? There were different spaces in the globe where people who are struggling for liberation were silenced and were locked up, right? Unjustly, right? The people who are in power get to decide what is appropriate and not appropriate in terms of fighting back, and get to that welcoming someone home, welcoming a brother home from being incarcerated is a tradition of struggle that goes beyond Black folks in America. I think historically, right, people who have been oppressors have been very intent on silencing and controlling narratives, right? The winners get to write history, and in a lot of cases, that has been white people, right? And so I think where that connects to the struggle and where that connects to people coming home and our celebrating that is that we're too used to people not being here. We're too used to not having our brothers and sisters at home where they should be, right? And it's not always the person who's locked up's fault, right? And a system that's made for us to get locked up, and a system that's made to deny us resources, deny us opportunities, and deny us access to the things that allow people to live a life that's away from the law in a city that's in a place that surveils us. It is not, people are bound to be locked up, and Black people are locked up at a higher rate than white people in this country. So we're too used to not having people around. And so in order in order to cope with that, we celebrate. And it is important when that family starts to be whole again, right? Because when a black person, especially a successful black person, is making money and making moves, everybody eats. And when they lock that person up or assassinate that person, people stop eating. So with the fact that
Yeah.
somebody, a breadwinner, comes home, we always celebrate.
Yeah. I think that's what gets lost in the whole prison, in the people getting in prison thing, is that it's actually like people's bloodlines being cut. Like a lot of people depend on on these breadwinners, and they feed many homes, and then that completely gets cut, you know.
Big facts, big facts. So welcome home, Shmurda man. And I think also important to acknowledge about that conversation is that it's an age where there's a lot of examples of what not to do, man. From my perspective, there's an age of a lot of fake stuff. There's an age of a lot of people doing things for clout, and the choice to, you know, make a uncomfortable situation even more uncomfortable for yourself on behalf of your brothers is, I think, something that we should lift up. I think that's amazing. And I think that's too few and far between in this day and age. So I'm super happy that that man is home, man. It comes
Yes,
along with a
sir.
few other things. Yes, sir, man. It comes along with a few other things I've been seeing in the news that give me hope, man. Illinois just eliminated cash bail. So you no longer have to, as of 2023, so they're going to work it out of here. But after that point, you won't have to pay cash to get out of jail. A judge will decide if somebody is a flight risk, and we're going to have to make sure that they are not doing that based on race. But that's a huge win for us, man. And
Cash
just a lot
bail.
of things
Can you explain that a bit? Can you unpack what cash bail means?
Yeah, big facts. If you get locked up in the United States, right, and you want to get out of jail before your trial, you have to pay your bail. A judge will set an amount of money that you have to pay that the court will hold until they decide whether you're guilty or innocent. That's supposed to make sure that you stay in the country until your trial. But what it effectively does is that if you have money, you can get out of jail before your trial. If you don't have money, you stay locked up. And so they're eliminating that system, which means that there will be a decision on whether or not you're a flight risk. And again, we have to be careful about how that decision is made. You ready?
Ready when yours.
Yo, nigga, your brother told us how you be all into reading and shit. Hey, that's some real good shit, my nigga, for real. Congratulations, nigga.
Thank you. Thank you. And when that come on, you know your boy's about to read something. You know your boy's about to read something when that come on. And I'll take those congratulations. Thank you, Miles. And today, what we'll be reading about specifically is Jay-Z selling half of his champagne brand to owner Dom Perignon. Now, listen, I might be mispronouncing some of these words, okay? It just goes to show.
That's because fancy things are happening.
I pronounce it how I know how to say it, is what I'm getting to. Anyways, Jay-Z and luxury goods giants LVMH have a reason to break out the bubble. LVMH, which owns Dom Perignon and Moet and Chandon, has taken 50% stake in Jay-Z's champagne brand. Listen, dude, I'm going to be up front right now. There's a lot of names that I feel uncomfortable reading because it's going to make me sound, you know, one type of way. I realize I don't know how to pronounce these champagne names.
All right. I may have somebody that we can have on standby as an assistant to pronounce fancy things. But until that point, I'm going to let you know that you're doing a great job, brother. I want to encourage our out there that's reading more, you know what I'm saying? Put yourself out in a vulnerable space. That's the key to this podcast. We appreciate you. But I think we got the point. Jay-Z, you know what I'm saying? Sold some of his shares of Ace of Spades, his champagne, to a large corporation that makes family favorites like Hennessy and others. So how do we feel about that? Is that's a win? I'm sure there was a bag attached to that. You know what I mean? I'm sure Dre raked in a hefty little sum.
For sure.
But how do we feel about that move?
I mean, I think when I heard about it, right, it just goes to show what type of different growths that a company can have, right? Things like selling 50% of your stake and mergers and merger acquisitions, things like that. I think it opens up to the reality of the options that Black companies have to grow their brand. So anytime we can have somebody do that at as high of an echelon as Jay-Z is doing it with that, it just makes the reality of our options that much more real.
For sure. I was very much like, it's about time. It's fine. Like, Black people have been pushing Henny, yo. We've carried Henny on our backs for free, bro. At least the boy dipped into the bag, like well deserved. And like I think the one thing about like Hove is that he seems to like
Word.
hold keys.
Word.
He seems to hold keys and open avenues of revenue. So I think that's money given to a wise man. So,
Yeah, man, for sure, for sure. No, it's amazing to see the growth. You know what I mean, from somebody that people were very sure was just a rapper, to somebody who's making major moves. And I think ruffling some feathers in the corporate world just by being in some of the rooms he's in. I think my only point of conflict when I hear stories like this is that I liked that Ace of Spades was Black owned. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When I hear rumors that Jay might sell Title, I think that's amazing that he might get a bag. I think it's amazing that people are seeing value in things that Black folks are creating. But I did like that my streaming service was Black owned. You know what I mean? And so that is my only selfish twinge of like, man. But I think the first person through the door had got to take a lot of arrows, you know what I mean, for the team and, you know, for everybody. So he's making a lot of moves. And of course, everybody got an opinion, but just the fact that he sits where he sits and gets to make these type of decisions is a testament to a hustler's mentality. And that's something that we appreciate on this show. You know what I mean? That's something that we strive for.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And with LVMH, which is a massive, massive company, I think it's a smart move on their behalf, which is aligning themselves more so again towards this whole concept that we talk about on the show all the time, which is the consumer's values, right? Like it makes sense to be able to have Hennessy, which is a predominantly Black drunken. Well, come on, y'all.
Drank up, drip that. That's what we pull out for the home phone now.
No, but like Black people, as you said, have been drinking Hennessy for such a very long time. I think Nigeria might actually be the highest consumers of Hennessy in the world. Nigeria. That doesn't surprise me.
We should have Bokabo Snoop. That's like the new ambassador of something, bro. Like something must shake or burn upon us, hold it down. And like that's what I'm saying. And I think the fact that a big corporation is willing to like acknowledge business and like collaborate is such a thing. Like I said, a lot of racism gets in the way of creating constituencies. You know? Like creating like honest, real like. Yo, you can't go and like brainwash the whole of Chicago. My friends and my people live there. And you know, things like that, which I think is an important thing to like dissolve the biggest danger of the human experience, which is like classes. That's the next thing that we're gonna face after racism.
Because opportunity does lie in collaboration, right? Like there's such a thing as companies doing the right thing. There is such a thing. And I love the fact that it's Hennessy, dude. That makes it so much more flyer, dude. That's Ace of Spades and Hennessy. That's so Black and that's so brilliant, dude. Like, damn right, that's what Jay-Z should be owning. Like, you know what I'm saying? He should be doing business with Hennessy. That only makes sense, you know. And so
does it from the perspective of Duce though. So I think his owning Duce, I think, complicates that even more because Duce and Hennessy are direct competitors in my eyes.
They don't have to be, bro. They don't have to be, bro.
What's that expression? They say the universe has endless questions and therefore endless answers. So there's no such thing as competition. There's only people who allow or deny.
Like it can.
Damn, these garden party episodes be hidden. Big facts.
It exists, bro. There's space in the market, dude. There's gag space in the
Especially, I mean, when you talk mergers of this size, right? From a business standpoint, let's say, for instance, LVMH has the capacity to be able to roll out more of these bottles than Jay-Z's company could have, right? Maybe they have the distribution that's locked down. Maybe they have the retail deals that are more locked down, which brings actually the consumer closer, which brings the product closer to the consumer, right? It takes on advertising, it takes on all these different types of initiatives that can pop off from it. So from that perspective, right, that can the value can be greater than what the value could be from these two bottles competing, because these big companies do this all the time. They buy up the names of different types of alcohols and add them to their roster of retail output. Yeah, flood the market. Flood the market. You know, so it's brilliant, man. It's absolutely, absolutely brilliant. Damn straight.
Word.
Damn straight. LVMH. Now, my brother, we're joined by a guest today, and our guest has been sitting here with us. Has been sitting here with us throughout the show. A lighter, please. Please pass this on this way right here. That's for the young man right there. So this is a family show. Our only watchers are our moms, bro.
Smoke them if you got them, ladies and gentlemen. Smoke them if you got them. Nigga, my mom gets closer to smoking weed every day, nigga. No cap, dude. My mom gets closer to 3 things: retirement, smoking weed, and moving somewhere warm every day.
Fam. Yo, so jumping in it, right? This brother right here, I stumbled on his work later into our friendship because he wasn't really trying to let me know that he's talented that way. But a lot of people that were the mutual acquaintances would always say, "You got to check this dude's work out," and so I did. I showed you the work subsequently afterwards, right?
You did. You did.
Yeah, and I think we're both just absolutely. What's the right wordage for it? Wordsmith.
I got a lot to say about it, but I'll let you finish the introductions. I got a lot to say about it. I was moved. I was excited, but go on.
And so as people who are appreciators of art, I just thought it would be absolutely a great opportunity to have a very fun Black art conversation, right? We got no script on this. There's no pre-production on this. Really, just dudes talking about some fly art stuff, and especially getting more so into a lot of your inspirations and a lot of the stuff that you do, because I find it fly, and as a fan, I'm just interested. You feel me? And I know you got some fly stuff coming up too.
Yeah.
That's just next level. I saw blood on the floor. It was absolutely wild. It was absolutely wild. So dig into some of that, man. But we appreciate you for joining us on our 26th, 27th episode.
Well, thank you very much for having me, gentlemen. Some fly shit.
We out here. We in the building, man. We in the building. Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Nah, man. I appreciate you rocking with us.
shout out, Miles. I guess like if you're speaking like photography, I always have like a.
And I don't want to cut you.
You don't want to cut me?
However, I also don't want to box you into, because I know artists don't like being boxed in.
I'm a peacock.
I'm here to fly.
I wouldn't necessarily call myself as like a photographer. I'm trying to like get into like.
Yo, speak all the way into the mic too.
Speak all the way into the mic. Yo, it's Griselda, niggas.
Yeah, there you.
Niggas got their
Walnut
sexy
tones.
Niggas got their sexy voices on. Can't hear shit.
Nigga. I don't know. What's a good place to begin? Like, not all thugs are from Griselda, first of all. And like, I got into like photography kind of not too late, like maybe 4 years ago. I met a guy named Jack McCain while I was stuck in Hong Kong for like a week. With another guy, Eli Mizukovic from Belarus, and we just all kicked it. And he was like, "Yo, get a film camera." And then I just got a film camera. Took a flight out to New York. I stayed in Harlem, and then he pulled through and just kicked it with me. And we just like met some people from High Sobriety, like some executive dudes. Some fly shit happened, and then I got more and more involved as more of a secondary eye or like a person to reach out to, like I guess, how can I put it? Like, yeah, I guess a second in command type thing of like his artistic practice. So he wanted a friend in South Africa, and he found a friend in South Africa type thing. And like there was a mutual connection. I'd fly to his place. I spent like a month and a half in LA. he flew out to my place. He spent like a month and a half here in SA, and it was just like that extension, that brotherly love, you know. And then like we trying to make a trip to Iceland and see like what the hell's shaking there, do some like some shrooms or whatever the hell, and just like kick it and just have conversation. And so like I said, like it's just creating like connections and like brotherhood through like a dope format of like artistic expression. And the cool thing about him is that even though in some weird way it's like a little weird sometimes, especially in terms of the conversation of like who should be documenting Black work, should all Black people be documenting all of Black work? And I think it also goes back to like the reality of certain things, that like as much as Black people are really amazing at doing photography and like capturing fly shit, white people are too as well. And people of other races and other colors are too. It's just that the issue is like racism got in the way of Black people being able to express themselves and like being like able to like acquire resources to do so. So I think like right now Black people are in a very fortunate time where we're able to create like actual archives in real time with the rest of the world that are like actually dated in our name, that we don't have to like go too deep into anthropology to just like show existence. So I think my experience towards like an artistic practice is not to document Black people as like people of culture, people of like an anthropological gaze. We're not like an example of just culture and just information to source from and write. There's like a magic in how we exist, which is like life. We're very alive people, you know. We do well under the sun. So I think that's the one thing I try and like show in my work, just like how honest our connection
of humanity.
Yeah, yo, just how cool it is. Like it's just how cool it is, and like at any given moment, you can just go visit your Black friend, like not too far in like a weird part of the suburbs, or like in a fantastic part of the suburbs now, and you just like have like an amazing human experience of like a Black nature, dude. And like you can go home and just share that with your parents and like share that with your friends, and like, you know.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the things that you picked up? I mean, it's you started on your phone, right? That's grassroots as it gets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what are some of the first things that you learned that really started to make a difference in your art? And that I think as when you fall in love with any type of activity, there are little moments of that where it clicks and it's like, oh, that's how you do that? Oh, that's fire.
Yeah. So I had a very weird experience as to like how I got better as a photographer. I shot film for 3 years straight and never saw a single image. And I think to choose a format of artistic expression and like to stick by it truly, even when it's like tough and financially difficult to fulfill the obligations of like creating the art form, is something that I really enjoy with film. One moment I can't like process film because I don't have cash. You know, I want a better camera. I gotta like wait and ship it over from like Germany or wherever the hell, because it's like inaccessible to me. But like that's the culture, and I hope to like be able to maintain the equipment that I have and like hand it down, like literally just like, yo, I want to just like, yo, shoot film, like do the exact same thing I try to do and just shoot nothing but film, and just passing that down and like let that be a subculture. Like, you know, right now I've got a homie in Russia who's like just completely into b-boy culture.
B-boy.
Yeah, and he's telling me to fly out and document like some Russian dudes like break dancing hard as hell. You know, shout out Soka. And like it's just amazing things like that. Like here's a Black kid from like Imlaz, who's from a township, documenting some Russian dude who's like an economist and has got his master's in economist, but is like breakdancing for a living. So telling me he wants to go live in New York. Like what? It's crazy.
That's great. That's great documentation, because it looks into subcultures.
Not only that, just even like gays, bro.
Yeah.
Like how it is like can be able to capture the magic of like how it is you see these people. That's what it is, bro. I think it goes better than just like anthropology. It goes better than just like genre and documentation. It's just like some fly shit.
Hell yeah, bro.
I got so many questions.
Go ahead.
I mean, okay, I guess because, you know, we're all big into hip hop, right?
Yeah.
My question then is like, what would you say the similarities you find between hip hop and music, and filmography?
Okay, I think film photography and hip hop go hand in hand, bro.
Unpack that.
Film photography and hip hop go hand in hand, bro. Like the grain, like the visual representation of how hip hop started is purely documented on film. And like it's such an exciting thing to see, like like contact sheets, like of just like old work, like the quality, like people forget that the image in which we see is not like the actual quality of reality that people saw in the exact same eyes we see today. And like how film is able to like grade and like capture that tone and capture like that element of like just city life and branch, bro, and just like have that like juxtaposed next to one another, like image for image. Like you got like contact sheets of a layer, you've got contact sheets of like Busta Rhymes and Biggie, Tupac, like all these iconic images. Almost everything that's dope and that's fly, from Wu-Tang, who were like 6 members shy, but having like 5 people in the thing.
Yeah.
Like all of that is on film, bro. How can we not be part of that culture, bro? How could we not?
Yeah. And there's been a lot of classic, iconic film moments.
Even today, dude. Like
in hip hop.
It's so much more easier to get photography work in LA if you know how to, like, if you can shoot film well. That's all everyone is doing right now. Because like there's a quality about film is that like you're literally capturing photons. You're exposing a material to like light and you're capturing that light at that particular moment. Right? And like you cannot fabricate that thing. You cannot like, it's flat.
Yeah, and everything that leads up to that moment, right? And you get this grainy image of Tupac on a gurney with his middle finger up, you know what I mean? And that's history.
And that's how the world sees you,
Yeah, for sure.
And so I love it.
Talking about dope film and gangster dope films and whatnot, this brings us kind of into our recommended and review, where we'll be talking a little bit about Snowfall. I told you to watch it. Did you get? It's all good, brother.
No, but we can break it down.
It's all good.
I'm not too sour about things.
Because these first 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes on this latest season, are already off to quite a bang, I must say.
Well, considering how the last season ended, we saw Manboy riding off with the Uzi. We saw Jerome looking around the apartment complex. People was in bad shape. It looked ugly. And so
it doesn't look better.
Be a response to that. It does not. It does not look better. It does not look better. And it's all in Franklin's lap as he walks with his cane. That walk is hard, though. The cane walk, Cane Franklin, that's hard.
That boy is acting, dog. That boy is acting. I think his name. I'm gonna get his name.
That's
man.
how Obama should have walked in office.
With the cane like
hard
that.
As shit.
No.
Hard as shit. Talking about like fucking. I'm from the south side of Chicago. It's crazy. Like, didn't Barack Obama go by Barry?
Barry?
Yeah.
I mean, I went by Z for like 13 years.
How can you have the most hardest black name?
I went by Z.
Like what kind of like fucking shifting molecules with sound are we talking about? Barack Hussein. Call me Barry.
Barry-O.
That's wild, bro.
See, that goes back to our conversation we had about, I was trying to get Zwe to be vulnerable about them shortening his name to Z, and silencing him. It's bottled up. It's deep in the vault.
Yo, the kid, the actor's name is Damson Idris. Damson Idris is doing a great job. Isaiah John is doing a great job. It's a very strong cast, man. It's a very, very strong cast.
Who's the actor that plays his mother? Real quick,
the actor that plays his mother is Michael Hyatt.
Woo, man, she
Michael
is bodying it. She is the emotional range. Just in a few scenes of just a mother that's conflicted, that has decided that she's all in for her son, but it's a treacherous path, and she's helping him walk it in a very motherly way, man. I think the dynamics of the show are incredible, bro. Spoiler alert, but Lee's allegiances are a little shaky right now. We don't know what he might do. When his homeboy in the episode said, we should hit the plug, I was like, oh, let's not do that. Let's not do that. We don't want Lee and Javi going at it. I
Nah,
love
for
it, man. I
sure,
love
man.
the show.
For
It's a tangle
sure.
web.
Snowfall, it's absolutely great. It's absolutely great. And over the same weekend, I was watching American Gangster in preparation of watching Snowfall, which led me, which brought me here with quite a question for you, well-educated gentlemen, which is the best gangster films of all time.
Ooh.
Well, I wasn't prepared for such a serious conversation today, but we must.
If it
Every time I'm out,
has to.
they pull me
If
back
it
in.
has to, it has to.
Denzel's performance on. Wait, are we counting Training Day as a gangster
It
movie?
is. He's a gangster.
Has to be.
Has to.
I put Denzel in Training Day over Denzel in Godfather. Not in Godfather, in American Gangster, which is it's a controversial choice to do, but that's what that's where I put it. But the best gangster movie has to go to Godfather 1.
Okay. I think for me, the best gangster movie. Well, I don't know if it's like street gangster. Would have to be City of God, bro.
Ooh.
With fucking Lil Z, bro.
Ooh.
Like
Forget your Zeta. Yes.
That's hard. City of God is definitely top 3.
yo, Lil Z.
Brilliant. That movie scared me as a child.
Oh, Lil Z, like when Lupe was spitting a little weapon, is like all I saw, bro.
Yeah.
When Lupe was spitting a little weapon, like don't give guns to kids. Lil Z gonna come. That's what it is. I think number 1, number 2 would have to be. I think Denzel in
American Gangster.
American Gangster is fucking cold as shit. That's what it is. It's like Frank Lucas wasn't a man of like too many words. He wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
You know? We are who we are in this life. Fucking took the cane, shot man straight in the head, bro.
Yeah, then
In the
took
scalp.
20% out.
Take that's your.
What are you gonna do, Frank? You gonna shoot me in broad daylight in front of the whole neighborhood?
They got Idris Elba's out of there with the quickness.
That's your 20%.
Nah, he does a brilliant
But
performance.
at the same time, Training Day, he said a man was killed today.
Yeah.
Serving a high risk warrant.
In Echo Park.
He is survived by.
Hand me the bitch.
It's epic. It's epic. It's
too much.
terrible.
It's pretty range.
Yeah.
Then there's Mighty Quinn, but we don't have to go into it. We don't
Bruh.
have to tap into Mighty Quinn. It's a different Denzel.
Different.
I had to drop an air hole for Mighty Quinn. Mighty Quinn is that movie, son. Mighty Quinn is that movie. Mauby? Son.
Put me on Mighty Quinn.
I had
That's
to.
that movie.
I had
That's that
to.
movie, son.
Ridiculous.
I had to.
That's that movie.
Yeah. What you got there? Southside Santa Claus.
Since I gotta go. Well, y'all named some amazing, incredible classics. So I appreciate y'all for clearing some of the big names out of the way. Me personally, Paid in Full is my number 1 gangster movie. For sure. Without a doubt. Ace and Mitch and Rico, man. There's a lot of lessons in that story right there. I gotta rock with Godfather Part 2. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of lessons in that. About family, you know what I mean? About what it means to be a gangster and be a family man. So that resonates. And then number 3, I gotta go Training Day, G. I gotta go Training Day at number 3. City of God is right there. It might go back and forth between those two, but that's
Where do you put American
top.
Gangster?
It's probably 4. It's probably 4 or 5. Yep. Rounding out the top. And then Godfather 1, Goodfellas.
Okay.
The good old
You know what I
classics.
mean? I like some of the left ones though, like Miller's Crossing. That's heat.
What about Young De Niro in Heat with Al Pacino?
Yeah, that's definitely bank. Then there's like the subcat. There's the bank robbery movies, and then the poker movies too.
Yeah.
Because Rounders is a gangster movie too. You know what I mean?
But if we're going that route, or we're going into gangster movies like that, then into bank robbery movies, then you have to do Ocean's 11.
You got to throw in The Town.
The Town, Ocean's 11.
Okay. What about but Goodfellas was more of a
Nah, Goodfellas is straight up gangster. Straight gangster. All gangster.
What did y'all think of Den of Thieves
That was kind
with
of
Young Cube?
that was kind of cool, but it kind of like flatlines and plateaus.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. Kind of cool is about right.
It belongs on DVD.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When
It would
everybody's
slap
using
on the
Blu-ray, right?
plane. It would slap if I had no other options. It would be the best option of not having any options.
That's what it is.
I'll tell you what also slapped on a plane, but that's a real great movie too. It's Hell or High Water.
What movie is this?
That's
Hella
a
High
great
Water.
heist movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yo, have you guys watched Who is Kaiser Sosa?
That is Usual Suspects.
Usual Suspects.
Usual Suspects is a great addition to the gangster movie realm.
Yes. Where else can you get so comprehensive a list of the Costa Nostra movies, man? We out here.
We out
We
here.
out here.
You think Irishman would be a classic?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I like The Irishman, but it's not. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't have the same classic vibe as some of those other movies. You know what I mean? When I watch Godfather 2, I want to drink red wine and eat some pasta and really think about how things are going.
Okay. Nah, I don't know. I think Irishman will grow on people.
When you watch Juice, you cut your hair like Pac.
But the thing is, like, Irishman didn't have like fly shit. Like gangsters love some swaggy shit.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem.
And that's the
Because this is
problem.
old niggas. This is like Sicilian, bro. People ain't trying to show that they got guala.
Nah, but even in Godfather was the same way too. Godfather 1,
What do you
they kept
mean?
it low key.
He was buying casinos in fucking communist Cuba, bro.
That's kind of fly.
That was fly as hell.
It's kind of fly.
How much more money do you want?
kinda fly.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Yo, have y'all seen White Boy Rick? That's a low-key good movie.
Nah.
okay. That's
You've never seen it? Yo, you got to watch White Boy Rick.
I'm watching that tonight.
for sure.
There you go.
I'm watching that
There you
tonight.
go.
Brother
Where
Miles,
else, baby? Where else?
Brother Miles, we done toured around the world, bro.
We done gave him everything.
We done toured around the world. We done a lot. And what I'm gonna start doing now, actually, I think, because both of us are people that believe in the power of manifestation, and that, you know, we're people that when we say we're gonna do things, those things usually tend to happen. We're gonna be coming to Europe, man. I think we gotta let people know we're gonna be coming to Europe, and we'd love to be able to collaborate with some fly artistic individuals there. So if you're gonna be in any city in Europe, let us know on some, pull up. We got this. We're looking of shooting content, a mini series. More information coming soon about that. But we want to speak to some of the dope creators out of that side, man. So reach out to us on that tip, and let's do some work together.
Speaking it into existence. I like that. I mess with that. Gents, anything else for the people?
My brother, how was your show, your time here at the All the Way Live podcast? What are your
It was
thoughts?
pretty lush. It's an environment I call quite familiar. You know what I mean? Quite safe. It's warm, it's close, it's lush.
Yeah, absolutely. We carefully curate a safe space for people whenever they are tuned in, whenever they are in the building. You know, that's very important to us, man, because we know. We're aware, man. Y'all got.
The show, is there still a little bit of time?
Go ahead.
I have a very controversial question to ask. Like, Miles, do you believe in the law?
Do I believe in the law?
Yeah. Do you believe in the law as a thing? Do you believe it?
I believe the extent to which other people believe in it definitely has a very real impact on my life.
Okay, swag.
I believe that everybody needs a code to live by, right? And from yourself, from the individual, you need a code. to live in a community, you need a code. I think the way in the country that I find myself in, the way that code has been created and the people that were excluded in the creation of that code has resulted in laws that I don't agree with very much.
Okay.
But I do think that code between a community is necessary. I think it can look very different than anything we've ever seen. And I would say that that's what I believe in. How about you?
I think as of late, I'm failing to see the law as a thing that's, as a person, like as people who live in the law, I don't think it works, bro. I think the law is almost like a Ponzi scheme where people just keep pumping so much money into something that doesn't work. You know, like you can't say law without a check. You know, before any lawyer asks you, they ask you like, how long can you hold your breath for, bro? We're about to go underwater, you know? And I think that already dismisses the idea of what justice, or the pursuit of justice, right? The balancing of scales. And it almost makes it like a vengeful thing, right? Because now someone is profiting off of your injustice, right? There's a system, there's a release in which like this thing's being expressed. And people
Prison
like,
industrial complex.
you know, and like the use of media and things like that. And my thing is like, I think more and more people just give power. Like you said, it's all about code. Growing up as a child, I've never been told like it's against the law. It's against the law to like enter someone's space without you knocking and asking. People tell you like, no, that's mad disrespectful. You respect people's space. And I think respect is like a code in which we all kind of like generally within like the human experience and even animal experience is something that we all understand, right? And I think we only start getting introduced to the law when we get introduced to like strong capitalism interactions, because like a huge majority of the law, almost like, well, here it's almost like 7 to 10 of the law is just property, right? You're speaking about property, and it makes no sense to me. And even like I said, conceptually, it's not a thing that works. Like this is an airport, you know, this was once a concept, but it works, you know, it's serving its function of like
of airpotting.
Of, you know what I'm saying? Like some fly Steve Jobs shit. But here we are with like this $1 billion complex, right? And like this, I guess, a pseudo sense of misguiding people on the idea or the agenda of like justice and peace. But really, it's like a money and vengeful system.
But check this out, right? It's what I'd say is that undoubtedly the way that the system is, what the law entails now, and what it uses to justify the way that the law is applied and interpreted, it's busted. It doesn't make sense, and that is easily seen when you look at the disproportionate rate. Let's take the biggest example, right? You look at the disproportionate rate at which Black and brown folk are being imprisoned in the United States, and obviously that does not match the statistics of who the users, the main purchasers and users are of drugs, and where the drugs mainly are found in communities and things of that nature, right? So clearly that whole system is absolutely broken. But the concept of having general rules and guidelines for us to abide by. The laws, it's like the 10 Commandments, right? It's an attempt at being able to put legislation that we can all agree with, because we interpret it and understand it pretty much the same. When thou shalt not kill, we all know what that means. There's no relative term in there. You know, there's no subjective term in thou shalt not kill. You know, thou shalt not cheat. You know what that means. You know what I mean? So that's the difficulty of the law, is being able to give us legislation that we can follow, that's non-subjective and can actually protect and ensure the pursuit of happiness amongst the common folk. That's a difficult task on its own. It's like you're making rules for everybody.
No, but my thing is like, the thing becomes a matter of like capitalist interest, bro, profit interest. That's the biggest.
It's broken. We agree. We agree. It's broken. Bail, cash bail.
In full. And that's the thing. Like it makes, like I said, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Like, and like I said, like,
it makes a.
it makes a lot of
The sense that it does make is that we need rules that everybody that apply to everyone, but those rules have never been made with everyone at the table, right? And who was ever at the top, I think the temptation is impossible to ignore, to make those rules in favor of yourself, but also the people, your descendants, the people that will follow you, the people that will carry your name and your money into the future, right? And so I think what capitalism does is it keeps a certain percentage of people so successful that it's almost impossible for them not to control the world, right? Elon Musk tweets Bitcoin and gets richer, right? And so I think what we have to do is we have to really take a look at those systems and take a look at those rules and those laws that as they exist today, and examine, well, who wasn't at the table when these laws were made? Whose perspective wasn't taken into account, and empower those people and listen and make sure that laws are written on their behalf. And what I hear this conversation circling around is restorative justice, right? Not the idea that justice is punitive, not the idea that when somebody does something wrong, something of equal measure should be inflicted upon them, right? The idea that somebody doing something wrong is an indication not of something that's wrong with a person, but of something that's wrong with the system, right? How did this person get to a place where they had to do something that we've decided we won't do to each other in order to get by, right? And how can we help this person? Is it a medical issue? Is it a mental issue? Is it an issue of poverty? Is it an economic issue? Is it an issue of housing insecurity or food insecurity? And we're not thinking about those things. We're thinking about who needs to be locked up so that there are no blocks in the cogs that keep the machine turning, and people collecting money at the top who promise a trickle-down effect that's really just a trick.
Okay. Now, my thing is, Miles, I think we're all understanding the law in a very kind of like a subjective sense of being people who've been like, whereby the law has tried to like marginalize and almost evaporate, right? A particular, like our existence, our creation. But my thing is, the law doesn't only work in that way. The law also works in like an economical of creating utopia and prosperities type way. If you look at countries like Switzerland, right? You could like finance genocide through Switzerland, and they'll be like, hey, just sign the check. And my thing is like, only now are they changing the laws once they're financially stable, once they like now financially have been seen as like, our ways of practices kind of suck. And like all the infrastructure set up, like all the war money has been transferred and handed down. All the generational wealth of appropriate, like here in South Africa before apartheid shut down, you had like big companies, big banks just going to like Switzerland, dumping money, like dumping huge amounts of money, cash in just stable places, right? And these people just cut a check and will take it for you. And now more and more other countries are doing that, like is it Puerto Rico, certain, or is it, I'm not too sure. Panama, you don't have to pay like any kind of income tax, right? And like, does that make any sense as why a business should not pay any kind of income tax as you're procuring the land consumed by the people that live around, and the people who work for your corporation have to pay certain income taxes too?
I mean, there you can make an argument for the relevancy of taxes, right? So, but like as me personally, I'm not a fan, you know, so I try and avert it as much as I can. However,
that's a lot of weed, man.
Hey, dude, listen.
Do what I don't believe in. I don't believe in taxes in any form at all. I don't believe in the law. I try to avoid following them whenever possible. What keeps me alive? 3 packs of Newports, 2 bottles of water a day, and music.
And menthols.
More than
don't
anything.
forget my menthols.
Oh man. No, but that's a great question, man. That's a great question, because it's a relevant question to talk about, because we're 3 Black men, dude. So when we talk about our relationship with the law, it's a very different type of relationship, and many times it's one that has that could have futile repercussions, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If not futile, I keep using that word wrong, bro. It's not futile. That could have deadly repercussions.
So even like, I think even expressing opinions against a particular system, right?
Yeah.
Can be misconstrued of your politics as being like disruptive, right? Fred Hampton didn't believe in policing, and like they killed him for that, right? Here I am speaking about the law, and someone like comes across this podcast, and like all of a sudden, like now I'm not getting a job just for like expressing my own subjective politics and like no one is trying to really understand like as to why, or taking the time out as to like why. And I think that's sometimes the danger of like or not even the danger. I think that's where a lot of the anxiety, well, for me, comes off as like, how do I present myself as like a young black man, whereby for the past 100 and something years, media has been designed, and like active measures of like the war on drugs, the war on crack was like witch hunts for black people, essentially. And like just to dehumanize black people once again through like a period of time where black people are trying to find their feet. There's always an undercurrent that kind of like sweeps our feet, that like the system kind of like I don't want to say exasperates, or kind of like treats us as an exhaust to like release wastage, but there's always a new way of marginalizing and like almost the destruction of black people. And so when it comes to like the thing you're supposed to look at, the law, to like find restorative balance and like some kind of justice and understanding, and you say like you don't believe in the law because you've never seen this thing happen, and like here's the instrument designed to make these things happen,
and doesn't work,
and now you don't want to give me a job.
They're gonna put you in jail.
That's real. But I empower you as my brother does. We're in business for ourselves. You know what I mean? A lot of us we climb from one branch to another, but it's all about ownership, and it's all about creating something, that knowing your worth, and making sure that you speak your value into existence in rooms, under promise, over deliver, and make sure that there's they can't stop you. We all young Hove out here about to sell the liquor company, dash to the islands and celebrate with Beyonce, bro. Like they can't stop us. And once we get to the top, we'll fix the rules. And hopefully, what real niggas do is once they get their foot in the door, they take the lock so that can't close, and they let more people through. You know what I mean? So that's what we do. We invited more people to these conversations. We invited more people to participate economically, actively, and conversationally, man, in safe spaces like this, bro. Community. That's what it's about.
And do you know why we do that, Hloni?
Because it's a fly shit.
Also, because we know.
Yeah, true.
We know. They got a lot of options, bro. We know y'all got a lot of options.
They got a lot of options, Miles. We know they got a lot of options.
When it comes to choosing a podcast, which is why we appreciate y'all rocking with All the Way Live, nigga. Live in the sense that we are a celebration of life. We are a celebration of celebrating. We are a celebration of black people wherever they may be. Don't it feel good to be black?
Favorite thing.
Out here, man. So listen, wherever you are, hug your people. Eat something delicious. I wish you peace and water and wellness. We gone. All the way live. Let me play y'all boys out.